So hello, this is Raju Varghese. I represent Lexicon MILE.
I'm Andrew Thompson. I'm the head of global business at the University of South Wales, and I'm responsible for the MBA global program that we run with Lexicon MILE.
So this program is actually divided into two parts. One part is absolutely done in Pune in Lexicon MILE, and the remaining part is done from February onwards at USW in UK. We are just going to have a general interaction trying to explain to you the nuances of the global program. So Andrew, we have got a lot of Indian students who have been coming over to you. I think this is the 5th batch. So a fresh Indian student who applies to come there wants to know about the cultural fitment. How comfortable are the Indian students in the UK atmosphere?
I have to say, I found the students from India enormously capable, and they bring a good deal of knowledge and experience to the program. In terms of the cultural fit within the UK, you've got to remember that the UK is a pretty diverse place culturally, and the cities where the MBA global program are based, they are students with diverse student populations, so they're cities with diverse student populations. So students do tend to fit in. So in that sense, in part of their everyday life, they adapt to it very well. In terms of the academic program, I think there are differences. So some of the things like the way in which classes run, that's a little bit different. So there's a difference in terms of culture with education, but many students enjoy that change. It's something new, but I find that they've adapted really well. And even things like assessments, they're quite different. So we don't do exams in the traditional way, so students maybe do different types of assessments. And I find that the Indian students do enormously well on those.
That's such a nice thing to know that they're doing well. One query I normally have, because whenever I'm touring pan-India, so many different places, and this normally comes in from the parents of girl students, as to how are they coping up there. So although I do understand there is not much of a difference between genders now, but yeah, the parental concerns are there. So are they acclimatizing as well? Are they socializing as well? What would your views be on that?
I think that they enjoy the change enormously. There are two things that I would say in that response. One is that I find that the students who come from India, the young women who come in, there's very little difference in terms of their performance, their aptitude and their motivations. But one of the things that we do try to do is to work with particularly younger women who are coming into the program to look at how they might develop their leadership potential. So we often run particular classes, or we do visits, industry visits, to look at how young women rise up the corporate ladder. Because in the UK, like India, there's an emphasis on getting more women to rise, not just as professionals in the workplace, but how do they rise up the corporate ladder. So we do place quite a lot of emphasis on, I suppose, mentoring and coaching from women who are in senior positions and how they share their experiences. And I do find that young Indian women coming into the program, that they really welcome that opportunity. I think if I was speaking as a father, as a parent, I would say that coming to the UK is a really good opportunity for your daughter to grow, and they do get that experience to be able to develop personally and professionally. And obviously adapting to a new culture is something which, when they do go home, is really beneficial for working for big companies, because you're used to working with diversity.
Cultures.
It's not something that is unusual for you.
So I suppose the parents can be in a state of rest, because it is only growth through cultural diversity.
It is, I would say, yes. Yeah.
You mentioned, and we have also realized with time, that there is a change in the manner in which education takes place for the MBA Global Program at UK. And of course, the Indians are used to the conventional one. So what are the changes you feel, are the ones that are standard and the student needs to know?
Two things that I would say stand out. In the UK, there's a much bigger emphasis on students doing what we call independent learning. So whereas Indian students might be used to being in a classroom 5 days a week from 9 to 6, it's very common for graduate programs in the UK for students to be in class maybe 3 days a week. And what needs to be understood is that the professors expect students to come to class and that they are ready to respond to questions. So much greater emphasis on student interaction in the classroom, giving answers, participating, student-led, because that's the kind of environment we expect when they go out to the workplace. The second thing I'd say that is different is that the forms of assessment. There's much more emphasis now in the curriculum in the UK on activities that replicate those which are found in the workplace. So delivering briefs to your team, reports to your senior management, maybe team leadership exercises, group working, things which are designed to simulate the kinds of activities that professionals would do in the workplace. So much less emphasis on traditional essay writing and definitely on exams. Assessments which place more emphasis on communication skills and polishing and refining those communication skills.
So something that is more of a requirement from a professional company's perspective.
Definitely. Imagine if you are going in and into your workplace. For anybody in a management role, the expectation is that you will be good at doing presentations, at standing up and doing that. You'll be good at leading teams to do exercises, and you'll also know how to deal with what we think about as poor performance within a team.
Right.
It's really essential for how any organization works well.
Because the program has been running for the last 4 years, so a lot of nitty-gritties, like where do they stay and travel from maybe London to Wales, have been kind of ironed out as of now because they are very comfortable now. We may also be tying up with Amber, which is a student accommodation provider. Apart from, of course, the USW hostels are there. So the next question is, can you give us a few examples of students who have been standouts, who have kind of understood the program, led from the front, and are now doing very well?
I can give you some examples, but I can tell you the common thread that runs across all of those examples, and these are students who they don't sit back and wait for opportunities to come to them. You will find when you come to USW, you will get as much support as you need, and we run lots of additional activities for students to help them progress. But the best students come forward early, and they tell us what they want to do, and when we give them opportunities, they take those opportunities and they move forward quickly with them. So if I give you a really good example, we've got a student, I don't know if I'm allowed to name them, but let's say that this student is a young woman with an engineering background, and she moved on to the MBA program. I wouldn't say that this is a student who's most likely to speak out first in a class, but we ran a careers fair with employers come in and they're looking at future interns or future employees. It's open to all students to go and attend, but she went along to it. She introduced herself to the employer. They liked her. They asked her to come along and meet with them. She's got an internship. This is an aerospace company. It's a company with offices in Singapore, in London, in Miami. They really liked her. They've taken her on an internship, and fingers crossed, it looks like they may keep her on to work afterwards. So, a student like that is a student who takes the opportunity. I would say as well, if I give you a second example of a young man who came in with a background in computing and maths. And again, a very serious young man, wanted to do well. We gave him the introduction, but after I introduced him to the company, I withdrew and he took the opportunity forward himself. So the right skills, the right aptitude, but I'd say that the thing which is most important is that mentality. You've made the commitment to come to the UK. That's a big decision. I would say the best students take the next step.
Right.
They don't wait, they say yes and they go forward. So I'd say if you're going to come to the UK, say yes to the opportunities that are there for you.
So you have to be not a typical student just ticking the right boxes. You have to be proactive and go out of the way to embrace all the opportunities that the university provides.
Definitely. And sorry, if I just add, I would say that the students I've highlighted, they might not be the students who, as I said, that you would think might be the typical student to succeed in that way.
Right.
But they have that determination.
Right. So the thirst to go there, get the degree, and the international environment should be the kind of precursors that drive them.
Absolutely.
As we are in this position of trying to promote the global MBA program, and we are now trying to do it pan-India. Although our attempt was there earlier, but now we are going to do a comparatively coordinated effort to reach out pan-India. So let's say for an Indian who is pondering on global education, or an Indian student, so what advice or what suggestions would you give, when it comes to taking up a global MBA program or a global opportunity, and how does USW stand out as compared to the rest?
Okay, let me say three things very briefly. First of all, I'd say to any student that's looking to do this, to take the step, because when you're looking to differentiate yourself from others in a very competitive labour market, a student who's moved to another country, has made that decision, stands out for me as a student who's prepared to not necessarily take risks, but will be prepared to put him or herself out. So I think that the first thing it says to me as a prospective employer is, here's someone who is willing to give it a go. That's the first thing. The second thing I'd say to you about why choose the MBA Global Program is that it's a program with that industry connection. It's built into everything we do. So the assessments the students do are designed to replicate those in the business environment. We've got connections with employers in classrooms, in the placements that we offer the students, but also the lots of the industry visits. I'd say you will get lots of value for the fees that you pay for the global program. The third thing I'd say is that for students coming to USW, the extracurricular program that we offer students, it matches anything that I know exists within any of the big business schools in the UK. The guest speakers that MBA Global students exclusively have included 2 recent British Prime Ministers, Prime Minister of Australia, the Prime Minister of New Zealand, the heads of big businesses, so the founder of Cobra Beer, who's indeed originally from India, who heads the British Confederation of British Industry.
Yeah.
Senior business leaders, our MBA Global students have had the opportunity to put the questions directly to people who make big decisions in business and big decisions in the policy world, and that makes it pretty unique. So it may not be an institution of which you were previously aware, but I can tell you that program matches anything that you will find elsewhere.
So put it in a brief nutshell, it is about the exposure, about the international working opportunities, and it is also about getting out of what we would call a typical comfort zone as a student would, and getting out and trying to tackle newer things. So how exciting is the student life at USW?
I think it's enormously exciting for students. Of course, I can't speak in terms of experience in all aspects of student life, but I know that my students enjoy themselves enormously when they come to the UK. I'm pretty realistic that I know that academics are one part of why students come to university. The life outside of that is what matters as well.
Right.
So it may not just be about what happens in the evening and the night. It's about, for example, if a student wants to come and they want to continue doing their athletics career, for example, or they want to meet students, maybe, for example, they've got an interest in the kind of games industry or media production. All of those things are happening in Cardiff and in Newport, where the program is based. So a student coming to the UK, there's so much more to life that they can experience building connections, new experiences that they can take back with them. So I would say the MBA Global Programme is a programme which opens your door to many other experiences in life in the UK. And that in the end, you may forget what you've learned in a classroom, but how it changes your outlook on life, that's the bit that you'll take forward for the rest of your career.
Correct, and that is something that will be an impact forever.
Absolutely. It's what will make you stand out.
Correct. So what is it that as an Indian student you should be wary of, or you should be more understandable about is, as Andrew said, the manner in which the class delivery is going to take place. So it is going to be very student centric, and it is going to be very, very participative. So you are not going to have a teacher driven course, which is something which is very popular in India. That is one. Secondly, we have this fixture of a 5-day, 6-day kind of sessions. So one theory we would normally have in the earlier days is, there are classes only for 3 days.
Yes.
So the classes only for 3 days is also to give you an exposure into more internships, explore, study, understand, participate in fairs and so on. So that is how the connect to the culture and the connect to organizations happens. So that is the second major change. And the third is again something which Andrew pointed out very well is when we see students doing the global program in the Indian context, we find them getting very comfortable to friends, to places, to the places where they reside, to getting out together and so on and so forth. And they tend to repeat the same behavior there. Whereas there, I believe you should be getting out of that circle and trying to explore a newer circle, get international connections, friends from other nations, talk to other companies and so on. So it is all about widening your horizon. So if you ask me what is global MBA, it is looking at things from a global perspective as compared to a national one which we are used to. Your thoughts, Andrew?
I would echo many of the things you've said. I might just add that the Global MBA program is designed for students who want to aspire to perhaps management level roles, and it's to help them make that step into industry. So students might come from a background in maybe engineering. You may have students who have done their bachelor's degree in English, or maybe a student has done a bachelor's degree in mathematics. So for MBA students, it's not a requirement that you've done a BBA or a BCom background. You can come from quite a diverse range of backgrounds. The MBA program is designed to take diverse skills and direct them towards those core business functions like marketing, supply chain, HR, finance, and to give you the basics in each element of a business. So I would say that in terms of the kinds of skills that we're looking for, we're really looking for students who are prepared to be flexible and to apply some of what they've learned, but open their kind of thinking to different ways of working. So it's less about a particular skill set and more about a particular attitude, and that attitude is a willingness to just try different things. That's really the key thing for me that stands out.
So what we have also done as a part of an acclimatization, and this is something we experimented last time, is where Andrew starts interacting with the parents of the global MBA students who are leaving there, who have left. And I think the last time the interaction was partly in UK and partly with parents here, so that they also get a feel of how exactly the academic life is going to be. And they also see that there is a counterpart at UK USW who is there and in charge, so they can be in a state of rest. There is somebody who is there who they can always reach out to in case of any emergencies. So we had a couple of medical emergencies where the student was thinking of coming back, but they were all handled pretty effectively. One thing which we normally have as a query from most of the students is about specialisms. That is something which is very, very India specific. They would like to identify with specialism. So what are the various specialisms that USW provides, and what are the career opportunities, or which are the ones which are more in vogue at this point of time as compared to the ones that might not be that appealing?
We have a range of different specializations that students can follow. So the first is that students can remain on the general MBA global program, and I might come back and say something about that in a moment. Students can choose a finance specialization, they can choose a specialization in supply chain management or marketing or HR, or we also offer a specialization in entrepreneurship. So students on those, the key thing which will differentiate is that students they undertake something we call a capstone project. And a capstone project is something very common in the US, it's becoming increasingly common in the UK, and it's essentially a project that students are set where the task is set by an industry partner. For example, for students that work on the finance specialization, the activity that they have been set is set by Barclays Bank. So staff from Barclays Bank have set the challenge for students to work on. It is a real activity that Barclays want an answer to, and the students work on that, and then they report back their recommendations. Students also seek placements in their specialist areas, so whether it's HR or supply chain management. In terms of which is the most popular, it's pretty hard to say, and it changes from one year to the next. So for example, I could say to you that this year, the two most popular are supply chain management and finance. But if I also say to you that in the UK, HR is one of the fastest growing sectors of employment. So for students that want to get work in the UK, or indeed globally, it's very clear that changes in the HR industry, it's a really good opportunity to have a specialisation in that field. So students can specialise in a range of fields, including that entrepreneurship. That's designed for students who want to learn how to build a business, learn how to scale up a business, and indeed then learn how to seek funding for that business. USW has got the best record of any university in Wales for student startups, businesses. So there's lots of support for students who've got ideas about a business and want to scale it up. But just back on the general MBA Global, choosing that path is not because you can't think of which specialisation. It's sometimes for a student who might want to have a foot in two different camps. So a student might want to think about maybe working in supply chain, maybe working in finance, and they're not necessarily fixed on the kind of company they want to work with, but they're going to see what opportunities emerge when they come to the UK and how we can best match their experience with a particular company.
So one thing again, placements is something which is very central as far as the Indian diaspora is concerned, because they're spending a bit more compared to whatever premium colleges in India are offering when they're traveling to UK. So how is it that USW as a university looks at placements and looks at internships? If you provide some insights, that will be helpful for students.
Well, the first thing I'd say is that we have a dedicated team that supports the MBA Global exclusively. So they can help with suggestions of companies with which students might work on an internship. They can also direct you towards opportunities for internships. So you have a team of staff that can support you to find internships. The second thing that I would say is that we get to know students very well as individuals. So sooner you know this, that I get to meet students individually. It's really important for me to understand what a student's experience is, what his or her interests are, so that before they even come to the UK, we can think, we know someone who works in that sector that we can introduce you to before you come to the UK. So it's really important that the work that we do for internships, that it happens early. It doesn't wait until we get to the UK. We start that process much earlier. So almost as soon as students are onboarded at Lexicon, we're meeting with them individually so that we know where you want to work, what your interests are, and how we can help connect you to companies which can put you on an internship when you're with us in the UK?
So that is something which we have initiated this time. There's a lot of one-to-one interactions wherein we understand what the student is wanting to go for, what area is where he would like to be placed, he or she would like to be placed. So I think that is helping even USW understand the nature of the student, his disposition towards specialisms and so on. And I suppose we are a more aware batch, more aware from the USW side, more aware from the student side, so that placement then becomes an eventuality rather than something we aim for.
Can I just add that if I was a student choosing university, I would want to know, what will they do for me? Will they see me as different from other students in the room? If I've paid my fees, I want to be treated as an individual, not just as a member of a group. So I want my professor to know my name. If I was a parent, I would want to know that if my son going to another country, that they would know if my son was in class or if they needed a bit of encouragement. So I would say to you that what's really unique about our program is I know all of my students' names. I know them by name, and that's really important for me because it's about who they are as an individual. And I might know that a student who wants to do an MBA program, that things that they've done in the UK is how they think they've done in India before they come to the UK, what their particular interests are. It's about understanding what makes that person tick. So I think that makes our program quite distinctive, is that focus on the individual and improving the individual.
Correct. So I think the better you understand a person, you would be in a position to understand what is it that is actually aspiring.
Absolutely.
And that is what will be the difference between internships and placements and not having them. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Right.